What's up, y'all? Thanks for tuning back in to High Shot Logic. So Kentucky's regular season's over. Finished the regular season 21-10, so 10 losses. Currently stand at 22-11, including conference play and conference tournament. So we are where we are. We're dealing with injuries and all this stuff, but what I want to talk about today is what the path will look like and if we can get past this first weekend. I just want to say thanks to everybody for all your support, all your follows, all your clicks, all your likes. Please do me a favor and hit the like button on this video. Again, thank you for your support. Let's get into it. So I've watched pretty much every game this season. I like what I saw this season. I like the way we played. I like the heart we played with. I like the grit we played with. And I think that's going to pay off later on. But the one thing that concerns me right now is concerning everybody is the injuries. We don't have Jackson Robinson. We don't know what level Lamont Butler's going to be on when it's time. So we're just going to have to wait and see. One thing I noticed about Kentucky this year that I really liked was the fact that we got better on defense as the year went on.
In February, Kentucky jumped 44 spots in Ken Palm's defensive efficiency ratings over a 2-week period, moving from number 112 nationally. Despite an overall defensive ranking of 314th, allowing 77.9 points per game, the Cats still rank above two other AP top 25 teams defensively in Purdue and BYU. Offensively, the Cats are currently fourth at 85 points per game.
And it's really a tale of two seasons because the first part of the season doesn't really compare to the second part of the season because of the injuries. We've got a lot of contributions from other guys, with Trent Noah having extra minutes, Travis Perry having extra minutes, Colin Chandler having extra minutes, Brea getting better on defense. I saw a lot of improvement. So finishing the season the way that we did, we actually tied with the 93 Indiana team and the 79 Duke team for the most wins against top 15 opponents at 8. So I think that's a great accomplishment for Mark Pope. For his first year here to be able to do that, I thought was really good. But again, injuries caught up to us. I want you all to take a look at this. Shout out to KSR for doing the work on this. It's going to talk about the injury situation and how it's affected Kentucky over the last few years. Take a look at this.
Here's a scenario. Your favorite team's season has just started. They have put together a roster that has you hopeful and excited. They've won some games early that have some people saying they might be a title contender. You think so too. You're starting to believe. You're starting to imagine celebrations, rings, banners, and parades. But then, a concussion, a misstep, a jump, a sneeze, and poof. The dreams are dead. You now find yourself wondering, what if? I really feel like coaches don't really want to admit publicly how massive it is when a starter goes down. Instead, they'll say something like this.
We're not leaving any space for that. Like, I have a good team. Like, the guys on the court are good players.
Well, Kentucky basketball could look very different right now if it wasn't for the injuries that have plagued the program the last 5 seasons. Kentucky basketball has been unlucky, snake-bitten, cursed, whatever you want to call it, the last several years. It's true that every program deals with injuries, but Kentucky's injury luck has been particularly bad. It produced a dumbfounding stat that I just could not accept. Kirk Risa got hurt in the first week of December, along with Lamont Butler. If Kerr does not return, by the end of the season, Kentucky will have played less than 28% of their games with a full roster in the last 3 years. When comparing Kentucky to the other Blue Bloods, Kansas, the last 5 seasons, has played 76% of their games at full strength. Duke, 72% of their games. North Carolina, 78% of their games. The SEC champions over the last 5 years, 82% at full strength. Going through Kentucky in that same time frame, with the help of Wildcats tongue on Twitter to visualize this, you can see Kentucky has played just 17% of their games at full strength. 17%. So another way of looking at it was to look at the 1 seeds for the last several seasons and how Kentucky stacked up against them. What we are looking at here is the total number of games missed by players who averaged 10 minutes or more. Kentucky had a total of 54 missed games from players who averaged over 10 minutes. In 2023, Purdue had 5 missed games from players averaging 10 minutes or more. 1 from starters. Alabama, 3. Starters missed 1 game. UConn, the national champion, 6. Starters missed 3. Kansas, 6. Starters missed 3. Houston, 9. Starters missed 2. Meanwhile, Kentucky, 21, all from starters. And in 2022, due to CJ Frederick getting hurt before the season even started, Kentucky had 49 missed games. and it doesn't get better any of the previous years for Kentucky. In those 4 seasons since COVID, Kentucky has had 124 missed games from players averaging 10 minutes or more. All of those 1 seeds combined were 125. John Calipari's tenure at Kentucky can be broken into 2 parts. One, where he avoided injuries and hung banners, and how in his last 5 to 6 seasons, he had more players in boots than a bachelorette party in Nashville. And of course, talking about injuries, playing the what-if game is meaningless. It will only drive you insane. What if Derek Anderson could have played against Arizona in 1997? What about Willie Cauley-Stein in 2014, Alex Poythress in 2015? These aren't really excuses. The losses still count. There's no asterisk next to them. Part of managing a roster is dealing with injuries. Every team over the last several years has dealt with injuries. Not everybody is losing guys at the rate that Kentucky is. When you go through each injury individually, you'll see that it's just freak accidents. It's bad luck, or they're cursed. I was raised and confirmed Catholic, so I reached out to a deacon friend of mine in Louisville to see what could be done. That is, of course, after Googling if deacons could also perform blessings. And I'm very serious about this. Very serious. That is why I sent this video to you, Archdiocese of Lexington. The Chicago Cubs did do this in 2008, and 8 short years later, won the World Series. To be clear, I'm not asking God to help us win games. If there is something that we can do, if we can do a blessing at Wildcat Cole Lodge, if we can do a blessing in Rupp Arena, whatever we got to do, I'm on board. Let's see if we can reverse this injury curse. For Kentucky Sports Radio, I'm Stephen Peak.
Let's take a look at this year's bracket. The Wildcats have a favorable draw here with the number 3 seed, in Milwaukee facing number 14 seed Troy on Friday, and a likely matchup with Illinois on Sunday. The Midwest region final to be held in Indianapolis, where if they were to advance, would likely face Tennessee, Purdue, Gonzaga, or Houston on the road to the Final Four. BBN would provide overwhelming fan support if the Cats can make it to the regionals in Indy.
Damn, you take a look at the history, injury-wise, I mean, it's almost like we got the curse of the Bambino or something. But I like the way that we are built. I like the depth. Even though they had some bad losses, they had some losses to some unranked teams, but what they did against ranked opponents stands out more than anything, while being in the toughest conference in the country. One thing I like to look at is X factors. When we talk about X factors, I think that in a tournament, it's always going to be a guard for the most part, right? I believe that Garrison could be an X factor. I believe Almanor could be an X factor. And I believe that Colin Chandler can also be an X factor for us. He could potentially be one of those DiVincenzo type of guys. I mean, the guy's 6'5". He's on the run. And he's athletic. And he's just now starting to get confidence in his shot. I've seen the last few games, he's knocked down some long ones. So his confidence is growing. I think that he could be an impact player going forward. The only thing that makes me nervous about Garrison is when he's running the high post, he tends to throw the ball away. He tends to turn the ball over and try to make passes to cutters that end up getting stolen, or he gets the ball tipped out from behind him. Overall, he's a great addition to the roster. But I would like to see him be a little bit more responsible and play a little better. If he plays like he has the past few games, I think he's going to be fine. The only thing I worry about with guys like Noah and Travis Perry being in the lineup when they're out there, they're usually going to be going up against some guys that are a little bit quicker than they are. And that's one concern I have with the backcourt. But the front court, I think Amari Williams would be fine. I think Carr actually has an advantage because he's skilled as far as his footwork goes and as far as his basketball IQ. Looking at this team and what they've done all year, I feel like they've got the ability to do more than what people may think. Even though they have the injuries, I think they're still in a pretty good position. I think they got just as good a chance as anybody, to be quite honest. I mean, Alabama is a team that's going to have all the pressure on them, and so we'll see how they handle it. I think Nate Oates has done an incredible job with those guys. It wouldn't surprise me if they make it to the Final Four. I'm pretty sure they fully expect to, so we'll see what happens. If we can get past this first weekend, I think we'll have a really good shot of maybe surprising some folks and going a little further than what we should. One of the things that really stood out to me was how they fought. This team has had situations in so many games where they were down, where they were having to scrap, and teams are staying close, and they always seem to find a way to come out on top. Owe, what he done against Oklahoma within 2 weeks of each other was crazy. For him to be able to have the best games of his Kentucky career against his former team, I thought was pretty special. But then, of course, against Alabama, it didn't really work out that way in the SEC tournament. It'll give us time to rest up, get us ready for the tournament, get guys healthy that were dealing with nagging injuries and whatnot. Hopefully that'll get us on track. I think it's going to come down to defense. Even though we've gotten better defensively, I still see some weaknesses that we have. Not the same type of weaknesses that Coach Cal's team had. I think we're a little more shored up than that. I don't really see us losing games that we're not supposed to lose in the fashion that Cal was losing them. I don't think we're going to see that. But I have to be a realist and say that there's no guarantee that we're going to play our best for 6 straight games. I don't know if that's going to happen. But I do have confidence that we will do well. Of course, the dream is always to get to the Final Four and get to the championship game and win that bitch, right? But we got to be realistic in what we're dealing with our roster now. It is what it is, but I'm going to be here for it, hoping that they can outdo themselves, hoping that they can overachieve. Hats off to Mark Pogue. Hats off to the assistant coaches. They have done a great job with this group this year. If they're going to continue to develop guys like they have, like we've seen Colin Chandler get better, like we've seen Noah get better, like we've seen Travis Perry get better, Andrew Carr get better, well, we got a lot to be happy about going forward. Buckle up and get ready. Hopefully we're in for an exciting tournament this year. So until next time, go Cats.